You are tuning in to the Pop Culture Retrospective Podcast.
This show is dedicated to the memory of my big sister Rebecca, who is a fan of all things pop culture, particularly the people, places, and trends that define the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Welcome aboard this pop culture time machine. I'm Amy Lewis. This is episode number 105, a conversation with actors John Lacy and Rachel Bailit about their new movie, Everyone Asked About You. In this podcast, we've explored a variety of movie and television shows, focusing on the young actors and actresses who played key roles in them. This film aligns perfectly with my goal of sharing the backstory behind nostalgia, which is sometimes not always what it seems. In this new indie film, which was written and directed by Lacy, we get to see the real impact that childhood stardom can have on entertainers as they grow older. I am really looking forward to seeing the film, and I know you will enjoy my conversation with Rachel and John. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Pop Culture Retrospective Podcast. Before we get to my conversation with Rachel and John, I did want to give listeners a heads up that during parts of this show, we discuss some serious topics related to how women and children, and sometimes men, are sometimes objectified in film and TV, both on-screen and off-screen. We also touch on some of the violence depicted in movies and film and TV, as well as the dark side of being a young actor or actress in the entertainment industry. And you'll notice as we go through this episode that we had some audio challenges throughout the recording. You may hear some glitches as you listen to the episode, but hopefully that doesn't impact anything too much because I had so much fun speaking with Rachel and John. But with all that said, let's get to my memorable conversation with Rachel Bailit and John Lacy. Thank you so very much for tuning into the Pop Culture Retrospective Podcast. I am Amy Lewis, as usual, your captain aboard this pop culture time machine, as I like to say. And today, after getting through some technical difficulties, I am very pleased to welcome two special guests to the show. Joining us this evening is Rachel Bailit and John Lacy. Just a quick info on the two of them. Rachel is an alumna of the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute, where she also serves as a faculty member. She brings a wealth of experience and knowledge to her teaching, having appeared in acting roles such as 8 Days to Cabo and Diary of a Spy. Companies like DreamWorks Animation and Warner Animation Group have sought her expertise in acting to work with their animators. Rachel has taught a diverse range of students, including children and teenagers, and has even developed classes for military personnel and veterans, which is really awesome. She had the opportunity to work alongside renowned director Ron Howard in her role as Nurse Who in How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And some of her other acting bits include appearances on television shows like NYPD Blue, The Conan O'Brien Show, and General Hospital, among many others. John Lacy is a native of the Midwest, aka the Midbest, as I like to call it, because I'm from Illinois, born and raised. So appreciate the Midwest connection there. He is an experienced actor, writer, and director. His career began in the late 1980s, transitioning from music videos and commercials, more serious roles, such as his contributions to the film Dogfight. He has extensively studied the Meisner technique and continues to practice and refine his craft despite having decades of experience in the entertainment industry. His acting credits include roles on TV shows like American Horror Story, NCIS, and Chicago Fire, along with many others. John is also a motivational speaker and career coach for aspiring actors and actresses. He recently wrote and directed a film called Rosebud Lane, which was inspired by his mother. And I really appreciated that too, because my podcast I started because of my sister and the loss and kind of coping with that. So I can certainly attest to, art and being productive with tough things. John and Rachel have recently starred together in an indie film titled Everyone Asked About You, which explores the challenges of young actors and the impact the industry has on their lives as they grow older. So Rachel and John, thank you so much for coming to the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely, lovely intro.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
I learned a lot about myself. All these
That's always
things I've forgotten.
Yeah.
Wow, I've had a busy life.
Yeah, I know. It goes by fast,
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Well, thank you for finding the time in your busy schedules to come. I really appreciate it. So before we kind of get into some questions about the film, which I'm really excited to talk about because that's kind of an area that I touch on a lot on my podcast, is when did the two of you know that acting and teaching, among a ton of other stuff that you both do, but when did you know that acting and teaching were going to play an important role in your life?
Go ahead, ladies first.
Yes, thank you. I knew as a very little girl, that dream was implanted in me firmly. And though I took a circuitous route through studying broadcast journalism, very quickly I found my way out here. I knew performing in my backyard with my brothers, I was one of those kids. And teaching, I was always so curious how it all worked. And I took copious notes. From the time I began studying, I was obsessed with how it all worked. So it's no surprise that I became a teacher, but it really took David Lee Strasberg to suggest it to me. But I have a very curious mind.
Yeah, nice. That's great.
Like Rachel, I was kind of being groomed through high school to be a sports writer. My mom and dad are both writers. My dad, a fiction writer, but he also spent time working on newspapers. And I really thought I was going to be a journalist, and I went to college in Minnesota for journalism and mass communications. Quickly realized that was just not for me for a wide variety of reasons. Dropped out of school, moved to Hawaii, started waiting tables, and it was waiting tables in Waikiki when I suddenly realized I had a gift for some kind of showmanship, as waiters often are, ironically or not ironically. So I decided I was going to pursue acting. It just hit me like a lightning bolt. I moved to Los Angeles in 1987. I had some good fortune immediately with some connections that just happened to bear some fruit. And I hit the ground running. I started booking work pretty quickly. Even before I had any talent. Writing has always come naturally to me, and being a teacher was a natural progression for me. My mother and father also both taught. So those things came naturally to me, but I've spent the last 3 decades working on becoming a quality actor and a quality storyteller, and now I teach acting, so I hope I'm pretty good. My passion for acting is deep and rich and passionate, but what I really love doing is filmmaking, because then I get to work with other actors and work with elevating them, and I get to work with the art department and the wardrobe and the music, the editing, and I love all the pieces that come together to make a film. So that has really been the focus of my energy and my creative bliss the last decade or so.
Nice. And did part of your training involve figuring out how to lose your Midwestern / Minnesota accent? Or
that's a very good question, because thankfully, are you complimenting me that I don't sound like I'm from Minnesota?
Well, I actually find a lot of comfort when I hear a Midwestern accent, believe it or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people think somehow they hear Southern in me, and my family is all from Texas. I was actually born in Iowa when my father was at the Iowa Writers Workshop, which is still a very prestigious place for blossoming writers. So I was born in Iowa, and then we moved all around the country before we settled in Minneapolis when I was maybe 7 years old. So we're not native Minnesotans per se, and all of my family is from the South. So I don't think I ever truly had that Scandinavian Nordic thing that you're talking about. But yeah, thank you for noticing.
Sure, yeah. So tell us about the film. What's it all about? Give us the
I just did a lot of talking. Why don't you tell us?
I'll start it off. First of all, I just want to say, because we talked about Maine, I'm from Boston, and I used to have a nice accent.
That's a very distinct one,
which I can go into.
Yes.
Okay, so this film, I'm going to really hand it over to John because he crafted it, but it is an independent film that takes on a subject matter that you rarely see Hollywood studios handle.
Yeah.
And I always love to start with, it's a love story. It's a tragic love story. It also is the background of the landscape, I should say, of the film is Hollywood. Mm-hmm. I play a former child performer and an actress who finds herself in a precarious situation, as many women do when they're midway through their careers. things begin to change.
Sure.
So now I'll hand it over to John.
Yeah, Rachel and I have been together now for a couple of years as a couple, and really enjoying each other's passion for what we do. And I knew that I wanted to write something for her. When I was done with Rosebud Lane, which I hope you get a chance to see, and maybe some of your audience
Yes.
can find their way to Rosebud Lane. I'm very proud of it. Rosebud Lane was my love of Hollywood. It's a father-son story, and what they connect on their love of films. And they speak this common language of film. It's a much more complicated story than that.
Sure.
It is dedicated to my grandmother and my mother, both single moms, and the backbone really of Rosebud Lane is a single mom raising a boy in a small town in North Carolina who reaches out to his biological father, who he's never met, who he finds out is a filmmaker in Los Angeles. And the little boy loves movie. He doesn't know why he loves films, but he lives on a little road called Rosebud Lane in this farming country in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And he reaches out to his dad on his 10th birthday to come see him. And his dad is shocked to hear from this boy who he's never met. So he travels across the country, and turns out that this boy who he's never met, through his DNA, loves cinema.
Yeah.
That's Rosebud Lane, and I'm very proud of it. The point is, when I was done with it, I just worked with two child actors. We had another young girl that plays kind of his little love interest in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And after spending time with two child actors, and with all that's been going on in Hollywood, the combination of the Me Too movement, and then all that's been happening with the Nickelodeon documentary, the Showbiz Kids documentary on HBO,
Yes.
and these things that we've always known, all the way back to the Jackie Coogan legislation that was passed, and Shirley Temple, and all the stories that we've always heard about child actors, and that this industry is really not very healthy for children.
Judy Garland.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
The list is long.
Yes.
I wanted to make a film that's the opposite of Rosebud Lane, which is what embarrasses me and disgusts me about Hollywood. And
Yeah,
that's the behavior for so long, which is still happening now, of people towards women in this industry and children. And I wanted to write a film about that, and I wanted it to showcase Rachel, who's a fantastic actor, who has suffered a lot of these things. Thankfully, not to the extreme that we display in Everyone Asked About You, but
Sure.
she's dealt with a lot of the casting couch scenarios and the objectification of everything.
Yes.
Every role she gets is ultimately going to be about how much clothes she's willing to take off, how much skin is she willing to show.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been in those positions where I've had those huge roles where I'm on Showtime and have to make those decisions.
Sure.
It's
But
expected of her.
But even in smaller roles, you're still in a situation where, you get to wardrobe and the clothing's like half your size.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gross objectification, which is still happening. And I wanted to write a film about that. So Everyone Asked About You is about a young girl named Simone Green, who starts out as a beauty pageant girl, as often they do.
Yes.
And her mother wants her to be special because her mother's disappointed in her life, and she pushes her daughter Simone Green into the spotlight.
Sure.
She wins beauty pageants and then goes to Hollywood, changes her name to Simone DeVille, and now she's on a Nickelodeon type television show.
Yeah.
Whereas as an 11 and a 12-year-old, she gets paired up with a boy who's supposed to be her 16-year-old brother, but the actor is 23 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And from season one to
Sounds
season
typical.
two,
Yeah.
Simone DeVille's body changes.
Mm-hmm.
He goes from a good older brother mentor to her to someone who is lusting after her.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in Hollywood. These children are unsupervised, and they live a lifestyle, and they're exposed to things that are not healthy and not responsible, and the adults should know better. And it shames me that this is what happens in our industry. So fast forward now to Simone in the middle of her career with her producer boyfriend. She's had nothing but kind of a B movie career.
Mm-hmm.
She never made it to the A-list. She's always been objectified and expected to be the woman who's being attacked by zombies and killer piranhas in a bikini. And now it's getting harder and harder for Jack and Simone to make movies. So Jack goes a little too far in what he's willing to do and how he's willing to compromise her to make films. And that's what the film is about. It is a love story because there's a lot of love between the two characters.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, it's an examination of the journey that so many actresses go through and children go through. And it's not just the women, of course. There's plenty of stories, unfortunately, about boys as well and
Sure.
young men. So that's what the story is about. We're very proud of it. It's a powerful film. There's no nudity in it at all. We didn't use any child actors in it. And we still tell a very powerful, truthful, honest story without having to sink into feeling like we need to have our cake and eat it too by having nudity and a lot of sex scenes. There's none of that. It's all implied. There's the imagination takes over, and you realize what's happening, and it's just as powerful.
Yeah, well, and it was when I was reading information on the website about the movie, that was something that I really appreciated was incorporated to the movie, because as a TV viewer, my whole life and movies, the amount of unnecessary scenes that really sometimes don't even have anything to do with the plot is really infuriating, to the point where I have turned things off because it's just like, this has nothing to do with plot, or couldn't it have been implied? So I really appreciate that was how you all worked it out, because it is so unnecessary sometimes.
Well, it is, and the imagination is so much more powerful, and the same is true with violence. Mm-hmm. Do we really need to continue to see the bullet entering the body? Do we need to see someone's getting cut off? Do we need to see so much blood and so much gore? Hearing it is just as bad.
Right. Yeah.
Hearing a body drop in the next room is just as bad as seeing them get killed.
Right.
Or the violence. So it almost becomes pornography with a lot of these filmmakers, and how much they just relish the ability to show grotesque violence and unnecessary sex scenes, rape scenes, whatever it is.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
And I think it's an assault on the viewer, especially if you don't know what you're walking into. When I'm in so many of these films where a woman is being attacked, or she's being brutally attacked or raped. When I'm in these films, I'm thinking, how are the women in the film? They probably weren't prepared for this 5-minute scene.
All right. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Is this just ruined their whole night and their whole weekend that they're sitting through this?
Right.
This is the entertainment that they're paying for.
Mm-hmm.
And the filmmaker has a right to tell the story the way he or she wants to tell the story, and it's not just men. I mean, if you've seen Substance, those women are naked half the film, and that was a female filmmaker.
Yeah.
Was that necessary to tell that story? I don't think so.
Sure.
But we decided to go a different way. So it's not a matter of right or wrong. It's a matter of what I'm doing with my art. And thankfully, Rachel rose to the occasion. She's fantastic in the film. You have to see it.
Yeah, I definitely want to see it now. That's something I want to touch on in a little bit here. But Rachel, was there any child actors, actresses that you sort of looked to for inspiration for preparing for the role?
I did watch Selena Gomez's documentary. That affected me.
Yeah.
Lady Gaga's documentary too, although she's not a child actor, the day-in struggles and the loneliness.
Yeah.
Misunderstanding. Taylor Swift as well, what she deals with the public. But I would say Selena Gomez really hit home with me. I did watch the Nickelodeon show. It was quiet on the set. It was unbearable.
Yes, I kind of grew up during the golden era of Nickelodeon, and I still cannot. I do really want to see it. However, I think I'd have to watch it at like noon.
Yeah,
on a sunny day or something, because it'd be hard to watch.
The parents were there and like kept at bay, but the parents were like around too, and I don't know. It's
just a lot of bullying and a lot of putting kids into situations that they don't understand.
Yeah,
are being sexualized, and it looks just like hijinks. And now when you see it this many years later, and you realize that these were mostly adult men just putting these kids in these situations to make them look sexualized.
Yeah.
And the parents, when they spoke up, they basically knew that their kid was going to be written out of the show. So, but these they're executive producers that are above the content creators, right? Mm-hmm. And the fact that they're not monitoring this and making sure that it's a healthy work environment.
Yeah.
The buck ultimately stops with them, that they let these creative people come in, and just because they have a string of hit shows, whether it's iCarly or Amanda or Life of Zach and Cody, just because you have a string of hit shows doesn't mean you have carte blanche to treat people however you want to treat them, like the king in a kingdom.
And then it's how we treat people. I just, before I got on here, saw Millie Brown on Instagram about people giving her such a hard time the way she's aged. I mean, she's absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
I can't imagine that they want her to stay the same. I know Brooke Shields has just written a book about that. I certainly witnessed Britney Spears firsthand, how she became like media fodder on a daily basis for people to Amanda Bynes. Yeah, it is.
Amanda's probably the
Oh,
poster
real,
child
yeah.
for how far it can go off the tracks.
And
Right.
let her be her if that's who she wants to be now, and yet we enjoy it, and we hold them up to a standard when they're successful.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as things don't go their way, and the industry is very harsh, I mean,
Yes.
it's hard to get into, and then once you're in it, the demands seem to be,
and the fear of
intense.
being fired and the fear of being blacklisted
Yeah.
is a real thing, because there's these. It is a small town, like any industry. It just gets really small.
Yeah. And it's amazing that this is all coming to light. And so, with you putting together this, was there any pushback from peers?
So our film is complete. We've screened it once. We screened it at the Golden State Film Festival and won Best Movie. We're very proud. That was only 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
Now
Congratulations.
Thank you. Now we're going to San Francisco for an opening, and we have been championed by our dear friend Fiona Ma, who is our California State Treasurer and running for Lieutenant Governor, and she so backs the protection of children and women in the industry that she is hosting a premiere for us March 27th, if you're in San Francisco, at the Marina Theater. And it will run at the Presidio for a week. And so that'll be our next stop. And then in April, we'll go to Las Vegas. And so we'll do the gauntlet of film festivals before we ever
reach the public.
Nice.
But that doesn't mean we can't, if you know of a movie theater in your neighborhood and you're interested, or on a college campus, or have some kind of forum, we will come. We want our movie shown.
Yeah.
But we are really at the first beginning baby steps, and so it's exciting to talk to you at this phase.
Yeah, but the answer to the question is that we haven't made. We're too small of a pebble in the pond right now to have any ripple where there's anyone that's feeling like maybe we're taking a shot at them. There certainly isn't anything in the film that implicates anybody with any specificity. It's all very archetypes.
Sure.
But I wanted to answer the question about child stars that we liked when we were younger. I think Rachel and I grew up, the shows we liked when we were kids, it wasn't even the kids' shows. We grew up with stuff like Lucille Ball and Mary Tyler Moore and Carol Burnett and That Girl and young women who were aspirational and funny and had careers. Yeah. And those shows shaped me. They shaped us.
Yeah.
The type of programming that was on, and mind you, there was a lot of stuff that was happening back then, I'm sure, that was unsavory.
Yeah.
But the product that was being put to the public, there was a wholesome quality to it. There was an aspirational quality. Things had a morality lesson. Everything was wrapped up in something that was meant to make you feel good and and hope that people would get along. I mean, something like All in the Family was really about racial tension and racial divides, and how we can break that down by showing it at its most absurd and seeing how people can still come together, and we can laugh about it, but we can also realize, oh, wow, look how much better it is when everyone's nice to each other and we get along.
Right.
So we just feel very fortunate that we grew up in that age of television. And then the stuff that we watched that was aimed at kids was all Saturday morning cartoons.
Yes.
We didn't have stuff like Nickelodeon or MTV.
Right.
I didn't anyway. So
I was definitely MTV.
Yeah.
But MTV,
when they actually played music. Yes.
Yeah. No, I was actually an MTV kid for sure, and I loved it. But yeah, those music videos were definitely provocative and.
Oh yeah. No, that's a whole nother
exposure. But
thing.
Anyhow, we're not going into music videos today.
Yeah.
So we both have a passion for acting and storytelling and filmmaking, and we're really, really proud of this film, and it's just beginning its journey right now. So we're on this kind of fun ride that's kind of taking off.
Yeah, and so you mentioned teaching. Do you think that what was putting together this movie, is that going to sort of change your approach to teaching your students and kind of instilling in them?
The other way around, actually, what I've learned from teaching, I directly bring to the set. I have a shorthand with actors. I have the ability to communicate efficiently with actors and give them what I think they need, because every actor is an individual artist. I do cast a lot of the actors from my acting studio in my films. I have a familiarity and a relationship with most of the cast when I'm shooting my own projects. But that which I learned from teaching, I take to the set. But I bring my anecdotes from my professional acting. I bring that into the studio often, explain to them what they can expect in the work environment. And pretty sure Rachel does the same thing.
Yeah, it's one, art is art.
Yeah.
My students are very excited hearing stories from the set and
Mhm.
challenges and my process. A lot of them came to the premiere we had 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
It's healthy for acting teachers to be working
Yeah.
and in the industry and to know the demands and how the industry is changing. A lot
Mhm.
of Strasberg, I teach the method, and a lot of the work we do is through our sense memory and imagination, and the fact that we can work in with green screen and take our technique out. And so I think it's a win-win when your teachers are working. I know
Mhm.
John constantly has firsthand stories of being on set. As soon as he gets off, he likes to share it with his class. I think teaching is a master's on acting, and it keeps you fresh because you're constantly figuring out creative puzzles with your students.
Sure.
So,
Nice.
yeah.
And if you were to meet a, aspiring child actor, and perhaps they're like parents and or guardian, do you have any sort of words of wisdom for them?
Yes, I have 2 children that are doing extremely well, child actors.
Mhm.
And 2 young girls. One is going to be in Snow White, and the other one is in London and is about to hit it big. They started with me really young. I would say training.
Mhm.
Fortunately, the parents are very invested. The parents have to be invested in the training.
Yeah.
And they usually, the child expresses an interest, and then the parent has to do all the footwork, obviously, to get things going.
Sure.
And so I would say, I wish I wanted to start as a child, and my parents put the brakes on it. I really, really knew, but they did encourage me and put me in acting classes and music classes and cello lessons and everything else, and took me to opera and exposed me to so much in Boston, everything
Yeah.
I could see. So that's a good place to start, is to take your child to see art and to let them experience it and see, is this something they need to express? So like I start with children as young as 5. We used to at Strasberg.
Wow.
And my specialty was always teenagers, because that teen angst, they would come
Yeah.
every Saturday, and it sounds like you did some of that, want to express.
Yes.
I'm very encouraging of anyone who has this dream to follow up, because even though we're concentrating on this one lane right now, it's a beautiful life to create and to believe.
Well said. Well
Yeah.
said.
I
Thanks
don't,
for
I
being
don't,
here.
I don't teach children. I really have avoided that. The youngest students I've had, I think I am 20 years old, have been the youngest actors in my studio.
Sure.
I've been around a lot of child actors because I did some casting work years ago. So you in the casting environment, of course, you're seeing all sorts of kids. And Rachel's right. The children that are going to thrive are the ones where it's just obvious they have it. They
Yeah.
have this desire to be up on stage and to be outgoing with all their expressions, and
Yeah.
it's very obvious when you meet them. Unfortunately, most of the child actors in this town, they're doing it because their parents heard that their kids should do something, because either they're so cute or there's something about them, and
Yeah.
the parent is seizing upon something that could possibly become a revenue stream.
Yeah.
And then they pursue it with the kid, and maybe the child has some success, so then that just kind of feeds it.
Sure.
But the kid ends up then being a breadwinner.
Yeah.
And if they're not passionate about it, I think it's really a recipe for disaster. And it's not healthy for kids to go from school to then 4 hours at a casting office. Now, things have changed here because we mostly self-tapes now.
Mhm.
But when Rachel and I were doing casting work years ago, both separately, auditioning and going in live auditioning is very time consuming.
Yeah.
And to see these kids sitting around with their homework and their coloring books, if they're that young,
Yeah.
sitting at these casting lobbies, knowing that they've just been in school all day. And
Right.
now they're sitting for 3 and 4 hours, going maybe to multiple auditions in an afternoon.
Wow. That sounds exhausting. Yeah.
It's exhausting on the child. I've seen it firsthand. It's really exhausting. It's hard to maintain that kind of concentration.
Yeah.
And eventually some of the kids just want a normal life.
Yeah.
But
Understandable.
if they get the job, their parents say they're going to Hawaii or they're going to Disneyland. So there's
Right.
carrots, and it's unhealthy for kids to be doing this. But the ones that have to do it,
Right.
you want them to do it, and you want them to shine. And that's where you get a Ryan Gosling or an Ariana Grande or a Timothy Chalamet. These young these actors that we love so much, that were child actors, you could see it when they were 7, 8, 9, 10 years old.
Yeah.
At it. And we could see it. I remember the actors that came into our, that I had the opportunity to direct when they were younger. I knew immediately that they had something. And it's not just that they're cute. Cute's a dime a dozen out here. Beautiful is a dime a dozen out here. That you have to have this life force. You have to have this passionate look in your eye of someone that just can't wait to communicate their emotions and tell stories.
Yeah.
And, it's unmistakable when you see it.
Yeah. Well, and from what I could see from your film, I think it's quite apparent with the two of you. Very excited to see that when the opportunity
Thank you.
when the opportunity arises. And while we have a few minutes left here before we have to wrap up, I thought it could be kind of fun to just do some kind of a heavier topic, a heavier movie, to kind of do some light-hearted questions about famous child actors and actresses. And
is there a dunk tank involved?
A virtual dunk tank, perhaps.
Okay.
Yes. That's $1 million idea.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a subject that's kind of near and dear to me as well, because a lot of these people I've researched extensively and talked about on the show. Which sport did Dana Plato, who played Kimberly in Different Strokes, excel at prior to her becoming an actress? Was it A, tennis, B, swimming, C, racquetball, or D, ice skating?
I feel like she had a racket in the show. I feel like she had a racket in the show.
I'm going to say ice skating.
You're going to say ice skating? I feel like it's a racket. Okay.
We have two guesses.
Sure.
We have two. I say it's tennis.
I say ice skating.
Okay, the correct answer is ice skating.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was Tootie. It was the other one.
Yeah.
I just have a vision in my mind of seeing her on skates once, or seeing some image of her on skates.
Well done.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know if we win or lost. We have.
Hey,
she's having a tic tac right now, so I think she thinks she won a tic tac. Apparently,
hey, that's worth it. This is just for bragging rights later.
I'm gonna lose the next round and get myself a tic tac.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it's worth it. Tic tacs are it's good stuff. All right, this next one is true or false. When this doll was reissued in the late 1960s, Eve Plum provided the voice for Chatty Cathy, which was made by Mattel. Is that true or false?
She from Brady Bunch, Eve Plum.
Yeah, Eve Plum. Yep.
That seems like true.
It is actually false. Maureen McCormick. Getting so stressed, you just gotta chew on a bunch of those. Maureen McCormick actually provided the voice.
Oh, Marsha.
Marsha.
Close. I know, she gets everything. Oh my God. The next one is which artist almost got the role of Sandra Huxtable on The Cosby Show? Was it A, Paula Abdul, B, Janet Jackson, who is my favorite of all time, C, Irene Cara, or D, Whitney Houston?
Jackson. One of the Jacksons.
She was on Good Times.
Oh.
She was JJ. She was the sister on Good Times.
Mm-hmm.
You did another thing.
So I'm gonna say Whitney Houston, because it seems the most obscure.
That is correct.
Oh.
It was Whitney Houston. She was. I think they wanted her over the woman who I forgot the name of the woman who ended up getting it, but she was was trying to be a singer or something. I don't know. So she turned it down. Yep.
Yeah, it's funny that she obviously did a couple of films that were I guess Bodyguard is iconic at this point, but she never had a TV series. I don't think she was ever booked on one.
No,
that would have been interesting to see how Whitney Houston would have done on a series.
Yes. Yeah.
Might have revealed her. I don't know if she ever really took acting that seriously.
Yeah. I don't know.
Hell of a singer.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I mean, one in a million.
Yep.
All right. So we'll do two more here so we can wrap up, and it's late getting on in the hours here. So this is like a short answer. Why was Kim Fields, who played Tootie, who you threw that name out a little bit earlier, why was Kim Fields, aka Tootie, always wearing roller skates during the first season of Facts of Life?
I bet she worked at a diner. Did she work at a diner?
Or she was obsessed with someone who roller skated? Or she was trying...
Facts of Life was not my jam.
She wanted attention. She was obsessed with a roller girl. She was in rehab to work some leg muscles.
I'd say she worked at one of those diners where you roller skate up with the hamburgers.
Yes. Yeah, well, this is interesting. This one I didn't know prior. But apparently, so Kim Fields was supposed to be playing a 12-year-old character of Tootie, but she was 10 when she was cast in the role, and so she was, shorter and didn't look as old as some of the other girls. So she wore rollers so that she would look taller and a little bit older. That was the strategy.
Like platform sneakers, did they have those things?
I know, yeah, really. What happened? Apple box, whatever. Yeah.
Here I was thinking. It shows you how little I know the show. That she had a job already. She was 10. Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't have a job.
She was a bartender.
Yeah, that's true. Yep, she was bringing out, delivering beers via roller skate. It was,
that seems unnecessary to make someone have that extra physical exercise when you can platform.
And I have to believe that she probably collided with some cameras and probably had quite a few topples.
Yes.
Probably was not the safest decision that they've ever made.
I don't think so. They probably wouldn't do that now. The liability and that would be caught on video and
now they just make her taller with a filter.
Right. Oh, that's true. Yeah, a little AI there. Yeah.
All right, hit us with your last shot. What do you got?
All right. The last one here is some multiple choice. Which actor was the only actual teenager in real life in the classic 1979 film Breaking Away? Was it A, Neil Stern, B, Jackie Earle Haley, C, Dennis Quaid, or D, Dennis Christopher?
Jackie Earle Haley would have been Bad News Bears, and that was 74, and he was probably 12 or 13. So I bet he had not reached 20 yet. Jackie Earle Haley.
That is correct. Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like 17, I think, when that film.
Yeah, I know he was pretty young when he did Bad News Bears.
Yeah.
And so then I think that was 74. So anyway. Hey,
yeah,
that was fun.
Good math. Yeah. So he was like 17. The other guys were all in their 20s. So
I knew Daniel Stern was older. There you go. Very fun. That's a fun game.
Yeah. That was fun to put together.
That's hard for us.
Nostalgia's underrated.
It is a comfort, and it can be very therapeutic. I could talk. Well, I do talk about this stuff all the time, so that's probably why I have the show. So, so to wrap up, where can people learn more about your movie? Where can people find you out on the World Wide Web? All that good stuff.
Yeah, our website is going to be relaunched, but for the meantime, we're on Instagram at Everyone Asked About You and Facebook, IMDb, and if you follow us there, we will have constant updates on what film is moving next. Certainly can provide it to you, and our own Instagrams. I'm at Rachel Actrice, ACTRICE, and John
Laceman 34, LACEMAN 34.
Okay.
Where you can keep in touch with us.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And we're so excited to hear your podcast. Are we going to hear it and watch it?
Yeah, so usually I will release the audio version will be first. And then I do have a YouTube channel that I try to get the video uploaded to as well. But it's a one woman show, like the one woman show that you did. Just a different kind of one woman show, I guess.
Yeah, we respect you for what you do. You're one of us, you're making it happen. Life happens. I took care of older parents up until last year, and we do the best that we can.
Yeah.
We celebrate the times when we can make our art, whether it's a podcast, a play, a rehearsal, or a movie. And, as I say to my students, stay inspired. Thank you, everyone, for listening and looking out for our movie, Everyone Asked About You. We really appreciate being here today.
And thank you so much for being on. And, hopefully you can maybe get some extra, drinks or something tonight for all the trivia.
Thank you. Yes.
Great questions that you answered correctly.
Mojitos and Tic Tac.
Oh, nice. That's mojitos. Those are my favorite.
We're getting 0 right.
Hey, it's all right.
But who's counting?
Moral support and encouragement. That's worth it too. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Rachel Bailit and John Lacy as we discussed their remarkable new film, which addresses a challenging subject matter with awareness and a great deal of empathy. I will leave links to connect with them and their movie in the show notes. A huge thank you to both of these talented actors as well as Mitchell Messinger, who helped coordinate this interview. They were so easy to talk to and were incredibly patient with some technical difficulties we had before we were able to record, so kudos to Rachel and John. And before we wrap up, I wanted to make sure to share some poll results with you. I'm going to try to do this more and more because they are just so much fun and I love connecting with listeners. So, inspired by my previous episode with pop culture author Chris Morgan, I asked a few questions on Instagram that I also asked Chris during his appearance on the podcast. My first question was, who would you rather have as a neighbor, Kimmy Gibbler from Full House or Steve Urkel from Family Matters? 62% of you said that you would like to have Kimmy Gibbler as your neighbor, and 38% said Steve Urkel. My next question was, which show could you tolerate watching for 24 hours? If you remember, I asked Chris if he were, convicted of a crime and his punishment was to watch 24 hours in a row of the same show, which would he pick? And the list of choices were Barney, Beavis and Butthead, or Ren and Stimpy. 20% of you said Barney, 50% of you said Ren and Stimpy, and 30% of you said Beavis and Butthead. And my last question was, which fictional restaurant do you think served better food? The Max from Saved by the Bell or Rachel's Place from Family Matters? 70% of you said the Max, and 30% of you said Rachel's Place. And more polls will be coming soon. Please make sure to visit popcultureretrospective.com for all of your 80s, 90s, and early 2000s pop culture needs, including blog posts, videos, all of my past episodes, as well as links to review the show and merchandise and so much more. I hope you'll join me for my next episode where we will explore yet another fascinating facet of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s in memory of my sister. Until then, be kind, be safe, and hold on to your memories.
Thank you for tuning in to my mama's podcast and the memories of Auntie Rebecca.
And you'll notice as we go through this episode that we had some audio challenges throughout the recording. You may hear some glitches as you listen to the episode, but hopefully that doesn't impact anything too much because I had so much fun speaking with Rachel and John.